WhatsApp, Viber, IMO and BlackBerry Messenger are just some of the instant messaging apps that are changing the way we communicate on a daily basis. But how are these apps impacting the mobile industry? In studio with me to discuss this further, I have Beltran Simo, Principal at Delta Partners. Beltran, welcome. Fine, thank you. Now, as mentioned in my intro, instant messaging has literally changed the way we communicate. But how has the IM landscape since the introduction of, let's say, the first BlackBerry messaging or BBM service?
Well, I think that there are two main trends. The first one is that it all started a little bit as an anecdote, right? RIM launched the BBM as an add-on to the service, and then they discovered that it was the killer app. But they did, in my opinion, a very big mistake, which is closing it only to the BlackBerry community. So then, other type of applications like WhatsApp, Viber launch and then capture all of the market. Now the big question, which is the second trend, is what is the real impact? No one doubts that this is cannibalizing voice and revenue, but what we found out is that during the BlackBerry outage, we could actually measure what was the impact. And it's surprising because I personally was thinking this was having a massive impact on voice, yet the big impact was on SMS. Like during those days, what we have measured in some of our clients is that the SMS consumption almost doubled, which tells you a very interesting story, which is it's not about the free ride. It's not about the IM is free, right? People are used now to communicate via text. They find it very less intrusive. It's you can control more your conversation, and they're willing to pay or not. I.e., if you have it on a BlackBerry Messenger type of device, you will not pay. But if you need to do it through SMS, you will pay and you will be happy to continue paying.
But people prefer the instancy of instant messaging. I just remember back at the office when all the BlackBerries went down, people were literally hysterical. But now looking that BBM set the benchmark back in the day for instant messaging, but how has the landscape changed? Who's the fourth runner? Is it Android? Is it Apple? Who's leading the way? Is it WhatsApp?
Now it's WhatsApp for sure. And I think they did something great, which is a multi-platform type of application. But make no mistake, there are guys, like for example, some guys that I know in Spain, Spot Bros, that are launching new applications. Viber is really getting a lot of traction. So the stickiness effect that everybody says, the BlackBerry had in the past or that WhatsApp has today, I question if there could be another contender coming.
Speaking of contenders, let's look at monetization. Now you mentioned that IM is eroding the traditional mobile data revenue sources, SMS, voice, and to an extent email. Are telcos coming to the fore? Are they realizing this? How are they responding to IM?
You have pretty much two types of telcos. The ones that are in denial, I must say, and they are trying to block as far as they can this type of trends. And not only instant messaging, like the Skypes of this world and so on and so forth, but there are also other type of telcos that are embracing this because they have realized, and let me put you a very numerical example, that I don't mind if a guy pays me, for example, 50 or 60 rands for SMS or for the data to use IM. It's all about the margins. So the real implication for mobile operators is what is my margin on each of my products and where does the value move and what is the implication for me?
One of the implications, though, is stress on the data networks. It's a large amount of data going on networks, and at the moment they're not getting any return on investment from the sense they're not getting any money from these over-the-top service providers. How can they work in that into the monetization revenue stream?
I think you're raising a very good point, especially on mobile, because the way mobile works is the more data you put into the network, the more you suffer, the more capex you need to put. So I think that there are a couple of alternatives. First one, and I know it sounds very disruptive, is to increase prices. Everybody's talking about decreasing prices. And
is the data wars past? Is that no longer an issue?
I think that on the short run we still will see some erosion, but I'm a big believer that on the long run we might see increases in prices. The other thing is what most advanced operators are doing, which is tiered pricing. So depending on the service, depending on the hours, depending on the quality of the service, you might price up or down. I know this brings a lot of controversy with the whole neutrality discussion, but look, someone needs to pay for the party.
Absolutely, and you mentioned people are willing to pay. So is the fact that if I deliver a quality service as a telco, people will be willing to pay if the internet speed is fast, if there's no downtime? Do we see that trend with consumers?
Look, it's very easy, and I'm going to refer to Europe, where what you see is the strategy of operators is not so much to lower prices, but to offer more for the same money. So at the end, I'm going to now jump to fixed operators. They're offering fiber up to 100 megabits per second. People are paying 50, 60 euros for that. And it's for a reason. It's because there's a lot of value there.
That's Europe, but this is Africa though, and very different trends. Although mobile penetration rates are an all-time high and it's only set to increase. Also, smartphones are overtaking feature phones. What are you seeing on the African front, and are telcos as geared and prepared to offer consumers as much as they are in Europe?
Look, it's a matter of timing. I mean, LTE is already commercial in many places. In Africa, it sounded far-fetched, but look at what operators are doing. They're already preparing for LTE, they're buying spectrum, they're deploying CapEx. So it's a matter, again, as I said, managing your cost and managing your CapEx. But the business case is there, maybe not across the board, but certainly in clear locations.
Before we go, what's the future of IM for the short term?
Well, it will continue and it will get more exciting. I mean, the new apps that I've seen have more features, more interaction with social networks. So I think that IM is here to stay.
Well, who knows, maybe in future you and I will be conducting this interview over an instant messaging platform.